on camera, that will be fine with us. Then
I'll just continue to let people in.
sounds good. Thank you, Carol. Then let's start really quick by knowing that you're on the right session and you're on Unlocking Futures, the Spanish GED journey in Kansas. And my name is Hector Martinez, and I'm the director for the adult education in the state of Kansas. I came to this position about a little bit over 2 years now. Prior to that, I was the director for the adult education in the Garden City Career Connection Academy. I was there for over 14 years as a director, but also I have the fortunate to probably know most of the positions in the adult education there, because I was also a student and then became a volunteer and instructor, coordinator, and then director. Then I really know a lot of angles of adult education, and I like to share some of that with you today, but most specific for the Spanish speakers, and what are the barriers and the struggles that maybe we can put together to help them out. But before that, I would like to ask you if you can type your name and your title, what you do for adult education in the chat, if you don't mind. Then we can start our conversation about the need for the Spanish high school diploma for those English language learners. What benefits are coming for us for the Spanish speakers that will have an early high school diploma instead of waiting until they have their English skills, and what solutions we identified in Kansas to make that happen. But before we go deep into the conversation, I will ask each one of you to think about, why are you thankful today? If you think of something that you're thankful today, if you put that in the chat. And I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to type in the chat what you're thankful today.
All right, we've got sunshine and beautiful sunshine and family, my career and work that helps others. Thank y'all. Friends and family.
Thank you. And they will continue to come in. And I'm gonna tell you that some of your students, and you probably know more than I do this, when your students are walking into the adult education programs, they just thankful that they have somewhere to go, somebody to believe on them, someone that can help them see a future for them and for their families. And that is something that they may be able just to find in our centers. But let's talk about what is the challenge right now. In the United States right now, there is more than 20 million people that speak English less than very well. This is a very high challenge for those individuals to access educational and employment opportunities. With that in mind, over 20 millions of those people are over the age of 18, and their first language is Spanish. And out of those 12 million, 5 million don't have a high school diploma. Then it is a nationwide challenge, and we need to do something with that. We need to find out how we going to be able to help those people incorporate into the workforce, and not only that, but we can help them get into a post-secondary education or credential obtained education. And then with that is, I'm going to ask you one more question to be interactive here. Then when you are looking into your students and when you're looking into the adult education population, why do you think we are lucky? Then if you can use the chat and type something that you can think of when you're visiting with your students or when you're talking about your students and their stories, what do you think you're lucky? What do you think we are lucky in what we're doing when you look into them? Then I'm going to give you a couple minutes for you to type something on the chat, and I believe we're lucky for many, many things. We're lucky that we have a roof to live in. We're lucky to have family and friends that surround among us. We're lucky to be in even just have insurance, and there is many, many, many things there that we're lucky on. And Carol, do you mind to read some of them coming in?
Carol, you're on mute.
Oh, let me start over. I said, this is why I love working in this profession, because what's coming in here, opportunity to assist others. And we have the opportunity to expand the world in a position to help others in partnerships with agencies. Get to be part of people's success and celebrate with them when they achieve their goals. Opportunity to help others in Spanish.
Thank you. Then keep them coming. Then now let's talk about what we identified in Kansas on what is the distribution of students learners in Kansas in one of the programs that we're trying to expand. Then Spanish learners in our classrooms are the majority in our ELL classroom. Some of them are coming with some schooling, and some of them are professionals in our classrooms. And some of them, they have some certifications also, and we need to identify that. Then what we see in our classroom is we identify that there's some of the students coming with some of the knowledge that we probably need to take advantage on to move them forward quickly into what they desire to do for the future. Before we go into more deep information about how do we address some of those needs, I'd like to share one of the stories, and this story is going to take a little bit of time. Then I'm going to ask you to stay, and I'm going to see you first. Let me see if I can. I think I need to share with audio.
Hola, mi nombre es Flor Cortés, soy estudiante del programa GEP en la academia del Colegio Comunitario de Garden City. Yo soy originaria de México, soy hija de mis padres son mexicanos, hablamos español. En México yo tenía el sueño de seguir estudiando en la universidad, pero ya que vine aquí pues ya no seguí. Cuando llegué aquí, pues encontré la oportunidad de que podía sacar mi diploma de high school en el colegio y lo bueno que fue en español porque yo no sabía hablar inglés y pues no iba a entender, pero lo bueno es que estaba en español. Me di cuenta que iba a ser un poco difícil porque yo no tenía right. Mis hermanos que viven aquí pues trabajan y tienen muy distintos horarios y pues no tenían tiempo para que me llevaran al colegio. Gracias a Dios y pues a personas que encontré allí en las clases que me apoyaron y me dijeron que ellas me podían dar right, que pasaban por mí y podían regresarme a mi casa. Y gracias a ellas pues porque también fueron una parte importante en este proyecto que yo quise seguir. Yo nací con una discapacidad al lado izquierdo de mi cuerpo. Literalmente no sé cómo es el nombre porque pues nunca supe. Pero pues esta discapacidad no ha sido ningún impedimento para mí. Eh, yo no me he denominado como una persona que no puede hacer sus cosas por sí misma. Yo siempre le he echado ganas en mi trabajo y en la escuela y en todas partes. Muchas personas se han quedado sorprendidas de que yo puedo hacerlo y pues así es. Cuando yo entré al colegio, pues mi maestra me dijo que los exámenes iban a ser con un tiempo determinado y pues yo me asusté al principio porque dije, si es en tiempo determinado yo no voy a poder escribir en el teclado en mi primer examen. Pero pues me dijo que había una opción de acomodar para que me dieran un poco más de tiempo. Y sí, hicimos la solicitud, pero por muchos problemas que se dificultó la situación y pues por una aseguranza y otras cosas, pues no se pudo hacer el proceso rápidamente. Eh, yo yo lo decidí hacer con mis propias manos y en el tiempo determinado y pues vaya que fue una sorpresa cuando vi que sí pude pasarlo porque pues yo pensé que no iba a alcanzar mi tiempo, pero pues sí me alcanzó y pues sí pude pasar el examen. En mayo de este año pasó algo trágico en mi vida. Mi papá enfermó de COVID-19. Fue un poco difícil porque pues él estuvo en el hospital 2 semanas. No pudimos verlo. Ya nomás lo vimos salir de aquí del departamento donde vivimos, pero ya no pudo regresar porque pues lastimosamente pues falleció y no pudimos despedirnos de él. Solo nos entregaron sus cenizas y pues fue lo único que vimos de él. Pues yo así con el dolor y todo decidí seguir haciendo mi examen. En junio le dije a la maestra que quería regresar a mis clases y me dijo que sí. Después de ese tiempo que seguí en las clases, me dijo mi maestra que se había presentado la oportunidad de que yo hiciera mi último examen, porque mi último examen era el de matemáticas y pues me dijo que se había presentado la oportunidad de que yo pudiera sacarlo, que si me animaba y yo pues con miedo porque pues la verdad yo no soy muy fanática de las matemáticas y pues todavía no me sentía segura de que iba a sacarlo, que iba a pasarlo. Entonces pues me decidí y dije que sí, que quería ir a hacerlo. Me tocó ir a hacerlo en un pueblo cercano de aquí. Fui y lo pasé. Vine en el camino con la preocupación o la incertidumbre de saber si sí o no lo había pasado. Y pues cuando llegué aquí a mi casa pues fue una sorpresa porque abrí el correo y decía que felicitaciones, que ya había terminado mi GD. Fue muy importante para mí porque pues lo pasé y y pues fue gracias a mi padre y a mi madre que me apoyaron y que me dijeron que le echara muchas ganas, que yo podía. Yo entré a trabajar en McDonald's, he estado allí. Eh, Al principio me pusieron en el lobby, en el área de limpieza, y después pues me cambiaron a la línea de enfrente, y pues me gusta ahí porque ya ahí puedo practicar inglés, puedo estar hablando a los clientes y así me enseño un poquito más. Yo creo que yo poco a poco voy a ir aprendiendo así para que ya en un futuro yo pueda hablarlo fluidamente, y pues yo quiero lograrlo, hablar el inglés, porque así puedo conseguir mejores oportunidades de empleo. A mí me encantaría estudiar para ser maestra de niños y trabajar con ellos. Siempre he querido enseñar a niños de México, y espero que en un futuro no muy lejano pueda lograrlo. Me gustaría mucho. Y pues eso es un poco de lo que yo he vivido en este año, y pasaron cosas difíciles en mi vida, pero pues yo nunca me he detenido para que yo pueda lograr mis sueños. Y pues yo los invito a que ustedes también le echen muchas fuerzas, muchas ganas, porque todo en esta vida se puede. Eh, es bueno que pienses en positivo, que pienses que lo vas a lograr y que todo te va a salir bien.
Well, as you hear from Floor, she is one of the stars that we had, and she was part of the high school equivalency program, and she won a recognition nationally for her story. And like that, we have many students across the nation. If you saw some of the barriers from standing time, she is not able to use her left side. Um, Her hand and her leg on the left side is a little bit delayed. Then it was a barrier to be able to encounter that in the extended time, that there was not time for her to wait or waste on getting the testing. Then she was able to accomplish that even with that extended time. Then like that, we have many students across the nation, and that's where we probably need to be identify how can we remove some barriers for those Spanish speakers that just wanted to move forward, and instead of having a entry level job like cleaning, why not to move into the front line and make their life a little bit different. Then here in front of us, we have some information about national GED information for Spanish only, where there are some test takers from the year 2021 and 2022. And it is interesting on this because most of the test takers and the needs are in the nation is higher than the students coming to our centers to take the test in Spanish. From last year, from 2022 to February 2023, the numbers were kind of similar in the nation. Then when we are comparing, some students are taking this mix testing and have an opportunity to just not necessarily only taking the test in Spanish, but they can combine the testing into Spanish and English. Some of them, they wanted to do that, and there is less number of testers in that nature when they decided that they want to take probably science in English and then the rest taken in Spanish, or 2 and 2, or in different ways that they can take this test. Then I want to share with you, there are some different resources that we utilize in Kansas to help students like Floor with or without any education coming from their countries. And this is not only for Mexicans, but this is for different Spanish speakers countries. Then the Mexican government, they have a agreement with so many different countries in Latin America that they can translate and transcribe their studies when they go through this program. Plaza Comunitaria is similar to the GED. There is different materials, there's different modules that you can go through. And this is specific for those that they never went to school because they have some tools to help them even read and write in Spanish. So many people are coming from Guatemala and they maybe not even speaking Spanish. And it is probably easier for them to go through what they've been hearing on the radio and watching TV and be able to assimilate their Spanish writing and language faster than the English. Then we like to help them from where they're coming from, and the Plaza Comunitaria is one of those options. Every single Mexican consulate will have this program, and it is just a matter of being in contact with the Mexican consulate. How do you bring this to your center and how you can be part of this Plaza Comunitaria? They will have and provide all the resources, all the books, all the links and the training to set this up. Unfortunately, the Mexican consulate, they don't have funding to move this forward as a classes or to pay for instructional salaries. What they have some scholarships that it runs every year for those Spanish speakers, not necessarily Mexicans, but there's some different grants or scholarships that they will run, and you can apply that for your students at the Plaza Comunitaria. Also, I want to talk to you about some of the certified individuals and professionals in our classrooms. We all know and we all identify some of those professionals coming into our classrooms, and they really don't know where to go from there. You probably identified some teachers in the classroom, some engineers, some physicians, and they're just waiting for someone to help them move into their path and be able to continue their journey. But sometimes it's going to be easier for them to just be part of the professional's career. And give you some examples that we encounter in Kansas. We have an opportunity to help a physician from Philippines, and he was able to go and do a master's degree in Colombia. Then he was able to speak Spanish. He was speaking Spanish, French, and Filipino. Then when they were when he was in one of our classes, he wanted to do something into the medical field. Well, to do those tests, it will take a really long time. Then he decided to go through the CNA. He completed his Spanish GED because he was already professional, and then went through a CNA project. Then he started working with the hospital into a with the CNA, but helping more of the diabetes department and checking blood and getting that. Then but he was able to speak different languages that he helped a lot of the hospital. And we have some similar stories with some Spanish speaker teachers, and then we help them get into the classrooms as paraprofessionals. and going through on the Spanish GED, and then because to transcribe their credentials will be expensive, and it was better for them to go through the Spanish GED, go through the credentials, and then get into the paraprofessionals to be able to get some of the certifications that they require for the school districts. Then there are out there. Then I'm gonna ask you to again use the chat and just type and let us know what type of professionals are in your classrooms. If you identify some of those professionals, if you some of you know what professionals out there, then just use the chat and let us know what do you have in your classrooms. Have you get across some professionals who are there?
So, we've got teachers, engineers, lawyers.
I'm gonna tell you a little bit of story about a attorney that was coming from El Salvador. He was in practice for over 20 years, and he decided to move into the United States, and he was really good in practice in his country, but none of his transcripts will transcribe to the United States because the law is totally different. But he was already a professional. Then he went to the Spanish GED, and then he was able to help us in doing some classes for our Spanish students. And he was graduating a students in helping us with the math instruction in a totally different way than everybody else was doing it. He was volunteer for us. At the same time, he was working with in McDonald's by the same as Flor. He was working in McDonald's, and then after he was working with us, he was able to secure a job into a bank because his abilities with the math, and now he is still working on the bank as one of the financial advisors. Then very good story on him. He is now in very well in the English levels, and his idea is to have an MBA at some point. Then again, we have those stars in our classrooms. We just need to find how we're going to be able to identify them to help us into the journey from our students. Now let's talk about Kansas. Then when we identified that we have a lot of Spanish speakers in Kansas, then we decided to identify how do we going to place them into the system. How do we going to be able to count them, and how do we going to be able to respond to the need of the community? Well, the first thing is how do we going to place them? And the only way that we have Kansas use TAE for placement, then we have to use TAE Class E to place the students into the program. Then with that is, and we understand it is English, but they have to be part of the English classes also. And then we're gonna give them the GED ready in Spanish. And with that is gonna give us the placement where they need to be and how do we gonna be providing the classes. Now, the other thing we were working with is how many employers will be able to hire without the limitation of the English. We have different employers that they are not necessarily need the English level higher. Then we can work with them. And what we did is create some contextualize English materials for those specific employers. And I'm going to give you an example. A welding company that we work with, we find some contextualized English materials for them, more about the security, more about check-in, check-out materials that they need to use, tools, but they wanted to have the Spanish GED in order for them to meet the requirements of hiring. Then in working with those employers, we were able to place those students into employment, and also be able to secure some additional materials for English language when we bring them those contextualized learning materials into the classroom, because we then after that then we use and create some of the integrated educational training classes. Then this is how do we approach this in different centers. But then after that, then the question across the state was, now how do we going to be able to fund this these programs? Can we use federal funding, or where is the funding is coming from? Well, as long as they the programs are part of the English language learners, and they are dual, they're doing the dual credit per se, or dual enrollment into the English language acquisition classes, and also the Spanish GED, there is no restrictions for them to use funding or state funding that we provide to the local programs to utilize some of those resources. And then we create or share a memo with different questions that they may had, and I want to say, Carol, can you see the questions that I have in the screen?
Yes, sir.
Then this is a memo that I sent to all the programs, and this was the most the questions that they had on us, and then we send this response to them. Then yes, they can use our federal funding for their Spanish materials. They have the Spanish GED option. They can request some budget modifications or amendments if they needed to switch some of their funding to allocate some for their programs. We have different resources. Then sometimes we think that our resources are limited. Then if you have your phone, then you can use this QR code, and you can scan that, and it's going to take you to the Padlet. And I like for you to keep adding some of those resources. I'm just probably, let me see if I can go here really quick and share how that looks like. Carol, you still looking and seeing the resources there?
Yes.
Thank you. Then you can keep adding, you're going to have access to this, and you can keep adding some of these resources. All these resources are for, here is the Plaza Comunitaria, different modules for their instructions about how to get into the Spanish GED. This is a practice test for the GED Ready. And it is similar to the GED Ready, but it's totally in Spanish, but it's kind of like a guide on that. Then different resources that you can please, if we want to make this as big as we can, and just keep adding resources into that.
Hector, did you say that you wanted to add the link in the chat for us there.
Yeah, let me go back. Thank you, Carol. Let me just copy that link. There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you for keeping me on task. Then moving forward, then again, the need for Spanish high school diploma for our English language learners is clear. Then we need to provide opportunities. We need to help students achieve educational goals and careers. Then we need to encourage our staff, educators, and community members to support and advocate for Spanish high school diploma. We know there is a lot of needs out there, and we know that we have resources. We just need to put those together. Then some of the things that I would like to share with you from what we are being doing in Kansas is we're providing some special projects for those programs that they are in the early stages of wanting to implement Spanish instruction, and they don't have the staff that knows Spanish, or they don't know if they're going to be teaching the right or not the information. Then we are helping to a program that is being already more than 4 years in the Spanish instruction. Then the teacher from that side is doing some remote training across the state, and that teacher is helping, we call it mentoring, some other teachers. And most of the teachers that they're on those special projects from different programs across the state are the students, the learners that they're coming through the English classes. Then we put them through the mentoring, and they need to be part of the staff. Then some of the programs hire them to be part of the staff, and then they go through the training, and then they implement these classes across the state. Then it's a collaboration, collaborative effort from the mentoring and professional development, and then the implementation of the program. Then the programs don't need to add this to their budget at the beginning, but they can solicit some of those special projects in the run. And then once they establish that, then they need to include that into the next year's funding. Then I know it's almost 40 minutes for this presentation, but I will open it up for questions and answers if you all have some. And I believe you can unmute, or you can just type them into the Q&A.
Hector, I have a question.
Yes, sure.
Trying to determine the best candidate
Yeah.
for this type of class. I mean, in our program, we do have, professionals. We also have people who were very interested in doing a GED class in Spanish, who have a 4th grade education from Guatemala. And whether they are professionals or not, very little English. So trying to figure out for whom this is the best option.
Yeah, and that's a good question, Sharon. Then one of the things that I will suggest is we have in different countries, then their certifications and professional careers are different. Then what I will suggest is that take on consideration looking into the transcripts. If a professional, it brings a 4-year degree from university, and they may have in Spanish we call título. It is, and I can put that into the chat. then if they have their degree from a 4-year university, that is a candidate for teaching. Now, some of the downsides that we identified, it is rare to find someone like the attorney that we identified that is very good on math, and they can facilitate that and transmit the knowledge in math. Then it will be good to create some if you have teachers in your classroom that speak Spanish and help that with some others that want to teach, then it is a combination. The teacher will be able to transmit the ideas, but some of the other professionals will be good to use like the math, or the historian or the attorneys. They probably are going to be good on social studies. But it is a combination. Again, the first thing that we need to look at is having someone that has a 4-year degree, and then see what they feel more comfortable in teaching. Then if they do, my first thing I will do is, can they take a GED ready in Spanish? And what will be they feel more likely to teach? And they will let you know in that regard. Thank you.
I was really more concerned about students. What student is
Okay,
this best for?
The students, if you are you TABE or CASAS?
We use tape class E.
Class E? Okay, then if you have even if you have students that they're coming on a level 3 and up, level 7 and 8 is going to be hard for them to do it unless you use the Plaza Comunitaria. The Plaza Comunitaria is kind of like for those that they don't have any education in their countries, then most likely 7 and 8 will be in that level. That's level 3 and up, that it will be good to start taking the Spanish GED. Level 7 and 8 will be a little hard for them. Then you need to go on the lower level with materials from the Plaza Comunitaria.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Any other questions?
Hector, it's Heidi.
Yes, Heidi.
Do you have additional funds, non-AFLA funds in Kansas that allow you to that you can use for low-level Spanish classes? We are not teaching Spanish literacy with AFLA funds or with our matching funds.
No, Heidi, we don't have, and in each local program, they may have their counties local funds that they can use
Okay.
for that. Most likely, when they are using for Spanish literacy, most likely they do is matching those students or co-enroll those students in the English classes,
Yeah.
and then they have them stay for a couple hours or even 1 hour to do the Spanish literacy. We have a very success stories with some the students that they're coming from, I believe Chiapas. They were really low. They never went to school. It was really hard even for them to grab a pencil or a pen. They took the Plaza Comunitaria, how to read and write. They start concentrating more on attending English just as a listener, because they were not able to understand anything at all. They were not even they was just there to listen. But then when they start picking up the writing in Spanish, the English was more it was easier for them to kind of like understand. But it was same funds. Then the teacher that was doing the low literacy classes, it was paid with AFLA funds.
All right, thank you. And I think that we've talked about using volunteers for that, you know,
Yeah.
beginning literacy in Spanish. So that's a conversation we've had in Virginia. Bring them
Yeah.
in for English and work with faith-based organizations or volunteers who can help with Spanish literacy.
Yeah,
It's a-
in the
it's a
high
challenge.
school, I believe the high school equivalency program is that the one for migrants. They may have some options there. They need to qualify as migrants, of course, but the majority of the students coming from working on the field or working prior 2 years in the field sector, then they may qualify for those services. Then that may be another sources that you can.
Another source. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, let me jump in here because we have, in Charlottesville, we have a Spanish, GED program. It's small and we're just getting started, but we were able to partner with the local, organization, Sin Barreras, and they offer the Plaza program. So it's really been awesome because they can handle folks that come to us, Sharon, like you're talking about, that aren't quite ready for the GED program. So we are establishing a really good partnership, and likewise, people that graduate from their Plaza program then come to us. So that's a way, that's, you know, they're paying for it, obviously. So that's how we've been able to deal with that. I feel very fortunate.
Yeah, Carol, and just to piggyback on that, then there are some times that libraries, librarians, they have some grants available for doing some of that work, and they have some grant funding for that Spanish literacy programs. Then you may be able to partnership with a library on your city or your county, and they may have some additional funding for that.
So Hector, there's also a question in the chat. Can you elaborate more about the Plaza Comunitaria program and how it is used in the Spanish GED program?
Yeah, of course. Then the Plaza Comunitaria, let's put it like the Plaza is like the lower level for our students. If we compare our TAE Class E 1 through 6 on the English language acquisition NRS levels, then we're gonna put Plaza Comunitaria for levels 7 and 8. And then the GED ready will start at level 3, 4, 5, and 6. Then again, the Plaza Comunitaria is for low literacy Spanish. For those students that they didn't have any education in their country, then what happened with the Plaza Comunitaria is it works on modules. Then you have to pass a number of specific modules in order to obtain your elementary certificate. And then you have to pass a specific number of modules to pass your middle school certificate. Then in Mexico and in Latin America countries, they have 3 different levels of education to get your high school. And those are the elementary, middle, and high school. In Spanish, we call them primaria, secundaria, and preparatoria. Then it's similar situation, but they need to have a certificate every time they complete. It's not like here, you finish your middle school, then you transfer to high school. In Mexico and in the other countries, you have to have a certificate then the Plaza Comunitaria will help you get those certificates for elementary, for middle, and you can also attempt to take the high school that is through the University of Mexico. But if we have the GED in Spanish here, then why do we need to go to that option? Then again, in order to use the Plaza Comunitaria, I will suggest use it for the students that they are placed on TAPE Class C 7 and 8. You're welcome, Aaron. Then any other questions? Well, you know, it's a long journey on this on the Spanish GED is I always debate on offering a Spanish solution for only one of the groups, because this should be for every single one, not only English, and we can help our other language speakers in our classroom. But the Spanish speakers is growing faster than we can see other language growing in our country. Then we need to identify some solutions to move and remove some barriers from in front of them to move forward into a better employment or better education. And I think this is just one solution. One time I got one question from an employer, and they said, if they have their Spanish GED, what is that going to help me with? And my response was, if you have someone that is going to be educated at the level of the high school and be able to see that they are successful in one chapter of their life, they're going to continue that path. They're going to continue to be successful, and the only thing we are doing is providing those tools to move those students forward. We need to make them be successful in one thing at a time, and once they feel that is going to change their lives, and this is what we can do. It is get out of the high school diploma barrier, and then let them concentrate on the English, and let them concentrate on the employment and training for them to be successful in life.
Hector, did Flora continue her college career, or is she still working?
The Flor is now in the community college, and she switched careers. Now she is doing the CNA and CMA. I believe she completed the CNA. She's doing the CMA, and I wish I can see her going through the LPN. But that she moved from being a teacher now to be a nurse.
Heidi, do you have your hand up? Looks like Heidi has a question.
I was clapping for Floor.
Oh.
But while I'm off mute, I'll just say, you know, I am starting to say in my conversations around the state, you know, it takes a lifetime to learn English. And our students don't have to start earning a living now. So if we can help them get started in employment, get their secondary credential, get started in employment, we can keep teaching them English, and they will continue to learn English well past the time they're in our classes, for sure. So use that if it helps you in your communities as well. I mean, I just every time Hector and I are together, we talk about, we know we're doing the right thing because of the stories we hear. It's just such a great story of adult education, helping people unlock their potential. So Hector, really thankful that you were able to join us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. One of the things that I was impressed on your IET program that is being running for many years. I took that and sent that the same time that you were presenting that with your team. I sent that to our team and was really impressed with what your state has been doing on that IET. Then this is something similar to the IET. It's just for the Spanish. We can meet the students in their workplace, and we can help them get into the workplace. It's just a different route. It's just helping them Spanish and getting that barrier out of the way. Again, my experience with helping students in unlocking their journey is to have some success in their life. And once they have that taste of, or I can do it, then they can do the next thing. And I think I can see how the IET can be part of the similar situation with the Spanish reading, if we can incorporate that in there. Thank you for sharing that. Well, I think I don't see any other anybody else. Any other questions? I'm out of the slides, and then if you have any questions, my information is here. I'm always available. If you have any questions, please contact me. We started. Let me share with you some of the numbers in here a little bit. In that Garden City Career Connection Academy, we started to move numbers forward in the last years. And as you see, this is Spanish speakers. Then we had 34 and then 40. And then when we allocate some funds, or not necessarily allocate, but be able to use some of the funds, then it jumped from 30 to 80, 88 and 90 students on those options. And I'm really pleased to, and I forgot to put this in the employment rate. 48 out of 48 are working students. 100% of those Spanish testers are working now in place with an employer. Some of them we're working with Tyson Foods, and some of them are already working there, but some of them are moving into the supervisory position because they have their high school diploma and be able to speak a little bit better English for some reason. And this is totally natural, that for some reason, but once they have the high school equivalency in their hands and they continue to do English, their scores are higher. They have something happen magically that they move forward and they are hungry to do more. Then that's why I always gonna say that one success change lives on their students. Well, Carol, I think we're done. I think we are going to give you some free time before your next session, before you go and visit the vendors and have fun with the vendors. Then thank you very much for having me, and I will be waiting for some of the questions. If you have, email me or connect me through your phone.
Thank you, Hector. What a wonderful presentation for what for sure will be a burgeoning market for us, I think, of people we can help. So anyway, thanks everyone for coming, and we'll see you around.